November 21st.
Okay, well, what happened after that?
Then that's
You
when
just gonna
that's
still
when
let him use his
Well,
license?
How about him answer the question?
And that's when the agenda was set for December 1st. November 21st was the Friday before Thanksgiving week. The agenda was set that following Monday. The hearing was held on December 1st. We didn't receive that information. I guess if he was arrested in July and then convicted in September, my office didn't receive that information until late November. We were coming up on a renewal application for 15. We passed that information along to the board commission.
Well, the county knew about the arrested.
My office did.
The county knew about the arrested.
I don't know if the county did, but my office didn't.
Okay. Well, y'all read the newspaper.
My office did not get it until November.
Let me ask you a question. Does anybody in your office read the Griffin Daily News?
Objection, you've asked him that question.
He hadn't answered it. He hadn't answered it, Mr. Chairman.
Just a second. He has already told you he did not know about the arrest.
And I asked, did anybody in your department read the Griffin Daily News? That's a yes or no.
I'm sure some did.
Okay. So nobody at the county came and told you, we've got a problem under the 2014 license.
That's what I'm telling you.
Once you learned about it, why didn't you go and try to give him a violation, a $1,000 fine? That's what it says right here. Turn over to section 5 under Q. It says right there. Read. I want you to read to the committee what a violation is. Read. I want you to read. Under section 5 it says violation.
They have a copy of the ordinance. They can look at it.
Okay. Well, he can read it into the record so that we got a record to go to Superior Court. Section 5. What is that?
Let's give him a chance to read it.
Violation of this article for any violation of any law, state or federal, pertaining to the conduct of the license holder's business, the following punishment shall be imposed.
Right, hang on, stop right there. Punishment shall be imposed. See that?
Yes, sir.
Is the word shall, is that discretionary?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
For the first offense, a fine of $1,000. For the second offense, within 5 years of any other offense, the license holder shall be fined the sum of $1,000 and shall lose the privilege of selling alcohol in his establishment for 90 days. C, the third offense, within 5 years of any other offense, the license holder shall be fined the sum of $1,000 and his license shall be revoked, and there shall be no further sales of alcohol by that licensee until the licensee has been reapplied for and been granted the new license. D, a failure by the licensee to pay any fine assessed under this subsection within 15 days shall cause the license to be revoked. Failure by the licensee to pay the fine assessed under this subsection shall constitute a misdemeanor.
Okay, so how has your office, how has the county manager's office complied with this code section?
As far as subsection 5,
Right, it says the word shall, and I think we can go back and read it to you. I can have the court reporter read it to you, but you said that was not discretionary.
like I said, as far as it related to the renewal, we passed that information along to the board.
Okay, so what you're trying to tell me is that y'all haven't complied with the code section.
Objection, he's not.
Well, that's a yes or no question,
Just
Mr.
a
Brooks.
second.
His department's in charge of it.
Mr. Johnson.
We've already decided, it's been objected, it's been sustained, move forward.
If this was his first offense, would he have a $1,000 fine?
If they didn't choose to suspend or revoke his license, probably so.
No, they can't suspend and revoke under this.
And, well, Superior Court can rule on that if you get there.
This is the question. It's not to Mr. Fortune, it's to the witness.
He doesn't know.
$1,000 fine. When do you impose that?
On the first offense, if you go through that suspension process.
Okay? Why didn't you? It says shall. Why didn't you?
We didn't go through the suspension process.
So what?
Information was passed along with respect to the 2015 renewal
Mr.
That was
Jacobs,
set on December 1st after conferring.
Mr. Jacobs, what has this gentleman or anybody working at Monmouth Country Showcase done since July or since September to violate the alcohol license?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay, none.
The county can only act on the information provided at the time that it's provided.
So,
All that my office has done is be a conduit to pass that information along as it related to the Title 15 report.
what's the difference
Because the
in,
lights, because the information we didn't receive till basically the end of the year.
what's the difference in being able to sell alcohol today and being able to sell alcohol on January 1st? What has happened since the arrest? What has happened that would cause you to not do it?
Nothing's happened to cause us to not do it. Like I said, this is why you have this form, to be able to appeal this process if necessary. All that my office does is, we don't have the authority to grant or deny the license. We pass that information for the approving or denying body.
Well, you make a recommendation.
Can.
You do.
Yes, sir.
You made one in this case, didn't
Yes, sir.
you? In fact, you said we want to deny this one and we want to approve a couple of others. Isn't that what you said?
You talking about on the December 1st meeting?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Okay. So on the December 1st meeting, you said, you told the commission, we want you to do this, we want you to do that.
yes, sir.
Okay.
So they recommend.
I understand. But they rely on your investigation, don't they? I mean, they don't do an investigation.
I also make recommendations at zoning hearings.
Sure.
They don't always follow those either. That's why there's a body that, a member of, 5-member body, and it takes 3 to get them to court. So, it's the first time that they've gone against a recommendation.
Who did you discuss this with? Did you discuss it with Mr. Wilson? Okay. And did Mr. Wilson remind you that the statute says if it's the first offense, it's a $1,000 fine, and it says it shall be imposed? Did y'all just decide y'all just gonna not look at that code section?
No, sir.
Y'all want us to look at it?
No, sir. I met with my superiors, even asked to make sure, had conversations with Mr. Fortune's office to make sure that we were following proper procedure. Then I was instructed to send a letter.
Are you aware that he has called, Mr. Wynn's called your office numerous times since this arrest, asking about issues with the license?
Since the arrest,
Yes, sir.
I'm not aware that he's called my office, because if he is, he probably would have spoken to a previous employee.
Cindy McDaniel.
Lee Corley.
Cindy McDaniel is the arrest.
Since the arrest in July.
Yes.
Hold on, you can't, I'll let put you back up there.
I got you.
But the person who handled all the licenses that received all that information from July until September, they left the employment in September. We had to find another person to fill that position. So that's when probably Cindy stepped into the fold to take over whatever the license file.
But all calls that come in, at some point, they have to be routed to you, don't they?
No, sir.
But the information has to be routed to you, doesn't it? If somebody's calling and asking about their alcohol license, check it, come on.
No, sir. Because a lot of times with these licenses, it's without, do you have your, your background check? Has it been formed? Has your fingerprints, have that been done? Have you had your RAS certification? And it's just making sure that all that information is in the file.
Well, are you
So
aware
as long
that,
as all that information, yes or no, is in the file, a lot of that, can be relayed between that employee that's handling that file and that individual. Now, once you get to an issue like this, as it starts to move on up the chain, And then, you know, is the file complete? Is it not complete? And we send that information up to the board.
And with regard to his application and all of the questions and the documentation that's required for a renewal,
Yes.
he complied with all of that, didn't he?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so there's nothing wrong with his application other than the fact of this arrest, is that correct?
Right, yeah, it's just because the ordinance lists certain concerns with respect to obvious, you know, violations and breaking the law in certain areas. That's the information we pass on to people. By all means, I'm not going to sit on that and just arbitrarily deny it.
But y'all sat on it in November, didn't you?
As soon as we got it, I passed it along. So.
It says on here that you can go ahead and suspend him after a 3-day notice, doesn't it?
Like I said, I passed that information along to be sent up for the December 1st hearing. For the renewal date.
But what I'm saying is,
I understand.
you had the right, if this was such an egregious act,
Correct.
you had the right to suspend him, did you not?
Yes, sir.
And you chose not to, because it wasn't that egregious, was
I'm not going to get into a debate on the levels of egregiousness. But
Okay, well-
it was there and we pointed it out.
it? Okay,
That's all
well,
that we did.
if it wasn't egregious enough to take his 2014 license, why is it now egregious enough to not let him have his 2015 license? What's the difference?
He doesn't make that decision, the board does.
He makes a recommendation, and he has to follow the rules, Mr. Fortune. Tell me what's the difference there? If it's not egregious enough to suspend his license, even if it's just for a short time, you know, or even give him a $1,000 fine. If it's not egregious enough for a $1,000 fine, why is it now egregious enough to just not let him have his license altogether?
Because it's listed within the code section that that's an offense that it can be denied.
But I don't know that you answered my question. I'm saying, if it's so bad that you're not going to fine him, if it's not bad enough to fine him and it's not bad enough to take it for right now, but yet, what makes it bad enough to not even let him have it in 2015? That's my question. We got to compare them. Right now, he's under a license, and you got the right to fine him or take it, and hasn't done anything. So what's wrong with, why is it so bad for 2015 and not for 2014?
You're arguing, Mr. Johnson, you're not answering any questions. Why don't you can argue that to the board? They're the ones that are gonna make this decision, not Mr. Jacob.
All right, he's going to need to tell me, why is it so bad for 2015 when it wasn't for 2014?
I guess what I'll do is I'll cite to you, since you had to read a previous code section, I'll read this code section. Grounds for suspension or revocation of the license. It point blank says, the performance of any act prohibited in this chapter or failure to perform any act required by this chapter, as well as the violation of any law, state, or federal relating to the business of the licensee. If such act, omission, or violation is done by the agent, servant, employee, or officer of the licensee, the lack of knowledge of the part of the licensee or the lack of authorization of such act, omission, or violation shall be no defense. The entry of a plea of guilty or nolo contendere, the conviction of any licensee, partner of any officer, director, stockholder, or licensee, corporation with respect to a charge, violation of any laws of the United States or of the state relating to alcohol control. That's on the grounds for suspension and revocation.
That's exactly my point, Mr. That's exactly my point, Mr. Jacob. You said that's the grounds for suspension, and you just said,
Or revocation.
correct, that's right, and you haven't done either. You haven't done a suspension or a revocation. The license, it expires itself December 31. Am I correct?
That's correct.
All right, and you haven't done anything with regard to that 2014 license, have you?
You're correct with respect to 2014.
And the reason I'm asking you that is I want to know, why is it okay to let him sell alcohol under the 2014 license when all of this happened in 2014, but it's not okay to let him sell alcohol in 2015?
Do you want us to suspend him right now for the rest of 2014?
That's y'all's choice. I don't understand why you did it.
Guess that'd be the.
Because that's the problem. You're going to have to answer that in court, Mr. Jacobs.
Mr. Johnson, that's the discretion of the board, not Mr. Jacobs. Let's move on.
Are you aware that after the several phone calls he asked about the license, that he actually went and spent money on capital improvements out there because he never got any answers from your office?
No. He indicated that he spent those sums after July, but it wasn't convicted or pled guilty on it until September. We didn't find out about it until December. I don't understand how we're on the hook for that.
Well, he says he called your office numerous times. Was there going to be any issues with his license? And he never got an answer.
If we had no information provided to him that there were any issues of concern, how can I relay any of that to him? Or any of my employees?
I don't have anything further.
Mr. Jacobs, when did you, what event occurred which led you to come to Mr. Wilson and say, hey, I just found out that Mr. Wynn pled guilty to gambling? What occurred? How did you find that out?
He actually came to my office and asked about it, spoke with Cindy, as he's referenced to. Cindy came to me and said, will this be an issue? And I said, well, do we have any information on this that we've been notified of this previously? Had nothing, stated in the file. The previous employee that was handling this left in September. I guess he pleaded in September, so obviously there's kind of an overlap.
It's actually October 1.
So, but like she left in late September. We then called the sheriff's office. We got a copy of that information on November 21st. That's a Friday. And then that's when I started to kind of like, hey, what do we need to do about this? And I started making contact with both you and Mr. Wilson.
To answer my question, you found out about the plea of guilty when Mr. Wynn came in there and said, hey, I pled guilty to this. Is that going to be a problem with my renewal?
Is
that what kind of got the ball rolling?
That's how I found out about it. That's how my office found out about it. And that's how then we requested and got the information with respect to the and then we sent that information.
Okay, thank you. That, you weren't trying to hunt him down. He came to you and told you, right?
Correct.
But Mr. Jacobs, the issues with employees coming, employees leaving, whether or not the county tells you what they need to tell you, that's not this man's problem, is it? That's not his fault. If the county spent all this money for an 800 megahertz communication system and they can't tell you that there's been an arrest, then that's not his fault, is it? It's not his duty to call and tell you we need our license revoked, is it?
Mr. Johnson, I can only act off the information that I have.
That's all I
have.
have.
Thank you.
Justin, get back up here. You're still under oath, Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir.
Now, I want to make sure we clarify that how many times did you call the office with regard to your alcohol license?
Actually, how it was initially found out when I went to get my application for the 2015, Lee Corley asked me what happened at your bar, and I explained to her the situation.
She already knew about it?
Correct.
Okay.
She already knew about it.
And she was a county employee, wasn't she?
That's correct.
Okay.
She didn't advise me she was only there for another few weeks or so, and that I would have to deal with somebody else on the situation.
So for them to say they didn't know anything, they knew about it before you even got there, didn't
She asked me, correct.
Okay. And when you did you ever get an answer from them?
Not that time.
You got an answer at 4 o'clock on December the 1st?
That's correct.
The day, just before they came in, he's gonna recommend tonight.
Yes, sir.
But you expended money because you called and asked and you never got any answer.
Yes, sir.
He can come down. I'll call Officer here. Officer here, I swear upon you, the testimony about to give me the truth, the mouth, no truth, that God.
I do.
Officer Neary, would you say your name correctly?
Tony Ranieri.
And Officer Ranieri, you've been with the Sheriff's Department a long time.
Yes.
And so you've known about the premises of the Mama's Country Showcase and products for years in the past. All kind of problems.
I've handled alcohol violations probably since 1990.
Okay? And if you take the way the business seems to be operated now and the way it's been operated in the past, does it seem to be a better operated business?
Yes. okay.
Does the clientele seem to be okay?
From previous, yes, sir.
Okay. And as far as their policies on underage drinking, you kind of heard what, the way the policies are working to protect himself and protect the county. Does that seem to be a good policy to you?
It differs in many ways. We don't advocate for the fact that they allow 18 to party, 21 to drink, because unless you control it, you're always going to have problems.
There's a possibility, isn't there?
Right.
But he's doing the best he can.
As far as I can tell from basically, once they've identified somebody inside the club that's been drinking, they come out and our officers usually arrest them.
Fair enough. And once an arrest happens, what is the county's, what are y'all supposed to do as far as notifying the county manager or somebody over here in the annex to let them know that there may be an issue with the alcohol license?
There isn't a set standard that we're required to do that. I know in the past we have forwarded the information to the community development folks. They usually send them McDaniels.
So that way they know about it.
I used to always send it, but this was not my case. Sergeant Mascale handled this case.
Do you know if she sent it and notified anybody?
I'm not sure. There was so much going on back when all this took place. I don't know whether she did or not, but I do know the county was notified about it.
Okay, they were.
When, I don't know.
Right, okay, that's all I got. Thank you, Officer. And I call Mr. Fleming. Ms. Fleming, you raise your right hand, please. You swear affirm your testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, that you got?
I do.
You have a seat, please. State your name for the record.
William J. Clemens, Jr.,
And Mr. Clemens, what's your address?
160 Belmont Way, Monroe County, Recycle.
All right. And you're the owner of the premises, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you owned the premises? And what's it's 2700 North Expressway. How long have you owned that?
32 years.
32 years. So you've owned it when it's been good management and bad management.
Yes,
Would that
sir.
be a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
And as the landlord, you don't actually get involved in the day-to-day operations or any of it, do you?
No, sir.
But you do you own other nightclubs too, is that correct?
Yes, sir, and restaurants.
And as such, do you have people who work for you to go in and, I guess, I'll use the word undercover, but just to kind of spy on your landlords to make sure, on your tenants to make sure that everything's kosher?
Yes, sir, we call them spiders.
Okay, so you send spiders in.
Spiders, yes, sir.
And with regard to that, have you sent spiders in to the operation of Justin Wynn's establishment?
Excuse me, Mr. Johnson. Whose phone is continually?
I am sorry, I have tried.
If I can ask you to put that in your lap so it won't vibrate on the wood. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
So, and I guess the question was, you've sent spiders in on his business.
Yes, sir.
Does his business seem to be kosher? Does it seem to be good?
Yes, sir.
Were you aware of the video poker machines in there?
Yes, sir.
Were you aware that he was paying cash out?
No, sir, but I kind of suspected it probably going on.
Okay, did you know it was legal or illegal?
I would feel like it was illegal.
Okay, but you don't know one way or another?
No, sir.
Okay, but you do know that the lottery commission took over gaming machines?
That's what I was instructed, yes, sir.
Okay. As far as his policies on underage drinking and this kind of thing with regard to serving alcohol, does it seem to be in accordance with the way your other establishments operate?
Yes, sir, and I'm real familiar with that. We wrote about 350 tickets when Mama's Country Showcase was up off Dublin Highway, and probably people in this room have been there. And the judge applauded us. We're always looking for ways to improve, but we wrote those tickets, and the officers wrote the tickets, and the people were sent home. They were drinking.
You mean underage patrons?
Yeah, underage patrons, and some 300 tickets was written, and that fine was $450. And of course, there'd be a lot of parents, a lot of people go there. And I'll never forget the judge making a statement one time saying, you know, it's not a bad situation that if we control what we're doing, the people have to have a place, these young kids between 18 and 21, home from college or whatever, to be in some type of controlled environment. Now, if it continues on, the 18 to 21, as a parent, I've raised 3 kids. I like to know where they were at, and they're right there till 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever. So my suggestion would then to Justin at this point is we're going to take, and when an 18 to 21 comes in that door, they're going to blow. And if they got any alcohol, we're going right out front. If they drank before they got there, whatnot, to see the officers. They come in and they blow and they're okay, we're taking the driver's license. We're putting it in a file. When they get ready to leave to get the driver's license, they got blowed again. They blow and they've been drinking in the club, unavailable for the security to catch them. They're going right out the door. So there's a lot more that we can be involved with security. But my in being here and speaking to you is to say, I think at some point, we as parents, we as commissioners, we as people of this community, you've got to give these kids a place to go someplace. If not, they're going to be traveling up and down the road. And they're going to go into other areas and other counties that aren't as restricted and don't apply as many rules and regulations. I will say that the young man has done an excellent job of working with Spalding County. I personally go by there. I was there Saturday night. I personally go by and see, to look at how my building's being treated, to look at how things are happening and whatnot. But just to kick the place to the curb from time to time is not.
I don't have anything.
Mr. Clemens, you're not testifying that paying out on these video machines is legal, right?
No, I'm not testifying.
Okay, and you candidly admitted a little earlier that you probably thought it was illegal.
Yes.
And so you wouldn't knowingly condone illegal activity in your building, would you?
No, sir.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Anything else, Mr. Fortune?
No,
Mr.
sir.
Johnson?
No, sir. I do have, you got a copy of the letter from Chad. That was the only thing that we listed as an exhibit. If you don't have it, I'll put it in the record.
The letter from what?
From Chad, that's
Okay.
exhibit 1.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to make a closing statement if I can. I don't know if you want to hear from me first or Mr. Fortune first. I don't care.
He's got the burden, and I guess you'd like to close it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, either way.
Okay. All right. You're here to consider whether or not you should reconsider the denial of the alcohol license. That's the issue before you. If you think that the denial was justified, then you vote to not reconsider. If you feel like you've been treated unfairly and deserves another chance, or that for any reason your action was improper, then you should reverse yourself. That's up to you. I'm not arguing for or against it. I'm simply saying that the issue that you must confront is whether or not your action was appropriate back on December the 1st. And that's the issue before the board today. Thank you.
I'm not going to rehash everything. I just want to reference a couple of points. First and foremost is the 2015 application, which you've seen. He's in compliance with every question and every document required. And there's no question, no flaw anywhere in his application whatsoever. The only thing that the county contends is Exhibit 1 in the letter. The letter says that we may suspend or revoke your license based on a couple of things, but they don't suspend or revoke the license. The license the 2014 license. And they haven't done anything with it. Zero. But yet this activity is so egregious that we're not just going to fine them. We're not just going to do what it would happen if this had happened the second time, which would be a fine and the 90-day suspension. Or all we're going to do is we're just going to say you just can't even have one. But the 2014 license is fine. Go ahead and sell alcohol all you want to. Now that's not right, folks. And person after person up here wasn't able to discern the difference in what happened under the 2014 license and if there's something else that has happened causing him not to be entitled to the 2015 license. Zero. And when we asked Mr. Jacobs about the enforcement provision of it, under section Q, that's the same section he lists. That's not my ordinance nor my letter. That's his letter and your ordinance. Grounds for suspension of the license. And it goes through. If there's a violation, then it says, for violation of this article or for a violation of any law, state or federal, this would be a state law, pertaining to the conduct of the license holder's business, the following punishment shall be imposed. And we ask him, is that discretionary? And you know it's not. I don't even need to argue. We all know what shall means. The county hasn't done this man right. This was his first offense. He should have been fined $1,000 under the 2014 license. And then he should be able to renew his application. If it's so egregious that we can't let him have a license at all in 2015, but yet it's not egregious enough to fine him, and it's not egregious enough to suspend him, just keep on selling. We're not going to fine you. In fact, when you call down there and ask about us, we're not going to tell you anything. And it's interesting to note that we didn't know anything about it, but yet when Mr. Wynn went down there to get it, they asked him about it. They already knew about it. That's a bunch of hogwash. Whether they had an official memo that they knew. They knew. They read the paper just like we do. And Officer here said, Officer Massengale notified him. He said the county was notified. He said he didn't know when. But they obviously knew before he got there. And he said he called several times. Are there going to be any issues with the license? Never got an answer. So he spent money out there. The most he should have gotten was the $1,000 fine. Mr. Fortune confirmed that. Mr. Fortune asked him, he said, is this your first time, second time, or third time? And he went and made a big deal about it. It's the first time. First time. The only thing that the county should have done was fined him under the 2014 license $1,000 and said, now look, understand that. This $1,000, you got to pay it. If you don't pay it, now we're going to suspend because it says that. Also, be understood, there's a file on you, and there's going to be a mark in that file. And the next time, you're not only going to have to pay $1,000, we're going to take your license for 90 days. Understand, you're going to have a mark in it. And if you do it again, there's going to be another mark in your file. But it's not fair to come in and let him think everything's fine, and then come in and just say, oh, well, it's not bad enough to fine him, but it's bad enough. We just want to let him have a license on account. That's not right, folks. I would ask you to reconsider your application, his application for 2015. I believe that he is entitled to it. I believe if you don't, I believe he's going to have some constitutional issues for violations. Due process, equal protection. And I believe that you're going to be, if it goes to court, I believe the court's going to use strict scrutiny on this and say, well,
it said under here that he was supposed to have been fined $1,000. It says he shall be. And y'all didn't do anything to him, but then, so y'all let him keep his 2014 license, that was okay. But he didn't do anything after that, but then you just took his 2015 license. How can you do that? You can't do that. I think you need to reconsider it. I don't think you want to spend a bunch of money in legal fees going over there for him to win. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, do we have a motion to end the hearing regarding the denial of the 2014 alcohol beverage license for Mama's Country Showcase? Also moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of ending the hearing regarding the denial of the 2015 alcohol beverage license for Mama's Country Showcase, please indicate your favor by showing your right hand. 4-0. Motion carries. Thank you. And at this time, allow me to note that Mr. Chairman Chip Gardner is out of town today. That is why he is not here for this meeting. With that, we'll move to the next item on the agenda to consider the renewal of 2015 alcohol license consumption of on premises of beer, wine, liquor for just